Hello, guys. It is March 6, 2020. I am Jonathan McQuiston. Welcome to my podcast. Today, we're just going to talk about kind of taking a break from business and leadership. And we're going to talk about the military and basic training. And if you're thinking about entering into the military, or maybe you're a husband or a father, mother, or dad that has a child in the military, and maybe you're trying to figure out what the heck's going on inside basic training, well, that's what we're going to talk about basically from the time you walk into the recruiting station to the time you get on the bus and ship out. So basically for me, I spent 8 years in the reserves. I was a military police officer. I started my journey just like everybody else, more than likely walking into a recruiter station. I had a little different situation. I was in my mid to late 30s when I started my journey. But so you go in and you do all the necessary paperwork and get all that taken care of with the recruiter. You take your test. You ship off to the military entrance processing station and go through that whole deal there and get checked out and see if you're fit for duty, basically. And then it's there where you get, basically, once that's all taken care of, you get your ship date to ship out, basically. And what that is basically the time you're going to hop on the bus, stay overnight more than likely at a hotel there, and the next morning hop on a bus and head to the airport and ship off to your basic training station, which for me was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, or better known as Fort Lost in the Woods, or Fort Misery. And there, like some basic training areas, you have what's known as a one-station unit training, and that pretty much means you're going to do your basic training, and instead of leaving after your training and heading home, you're going to stay there after your basic training and then head right into your AIT, or Advanced Individual Training, and usually that runs about 19 to 20 weeks of training, 8 or 9 weeks of the soldiering skills where you transform and from civilian to soldier, and then go right into your schooling for your actual job, whatever that may be. For me, it was military police officer. And then depending on, of course you'll graduate and then head home. And then depending on the deployment tempo at the time that's going on in the world, usually, not always, but usually within 2 years of your basic training time, you're more than likely going to be deployed somewhere in the world, whether it's in the States or it's overseas. But again, that all has to do with the deployment tempo and what's going on in the world. For me, 2009 was my graduation time from basics, so I deployed in 2010 to Afghanistan for a year. But again, it's not always the case. It's all going to depend on what's going on in the world as far as the deployment tempo. And then usually also, which some people may not know or you're not told, is every unit, I know for the reserves, it's probably the same for the Guard as well, you have a deployment cycle your unit falls into, and it just so happens I was falling into that cycle when I went in. Usually it's every, I don't know, some people it's 2 years for their unit, some it's 5. So I fell into that deployment cycle and then just deployed right after my basic, almost pretty much. But so really, basically, from walking in to the recruiter station till you do your testing and all the necessary paperwork and go to the military entrance processing station, or MEPS, and get checked out there, get your ship date, and your ship date may be far off in the future, or maybe the next week. You'll come back to that area, probably stay overnight in a hotel there, hop on a bus, and go to your area where you're going to spend your basic training, which from there, as soon as you hop off the bus there, usually you're going to have a processing time there as well, that may be a week or two, where they're going to run you like crazy, just from here to there, and getting you ready for basic training. That's getting your hair cut, getting your uniforms, get in your boots, you name it, hygiene, shoes, everything. Get eyeglasses if you need them. You're going to get checked out again medically. You're going to spend a couple weeks there. They're going to, again, it's going to be a pretty fast-paced situation. You're not going to know which way to go, but what they're doing is trying to get you ready for an environment as well once you hit your basic training area. So you'll spend a couple weeks there and throw away the civilian clothes and hop into those wonderful, Army uniforms or Marines or whatever you may be, whatever the branch may be for you. And then you're going to head to your basic training barracks, get in there, and generally it runs by phases in weeks. So it's week 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And obviously, as you might guess, the first or second week is pretty chaotic. I mean, it's kind of funny to watch if you're watching from the outside, but when you're involved in it, it's pretty nerve-wracking. But that first phase, you're moving and grooving. I mean, you're having minute 30 showers, you're having a minute, 2-minute lunches at chow time. You're just running from here to there. There's a lot of screaming going on, but again, this whole deal is to break you from your civilian life into the soldiering life, and it's very, very important that this happens because it teaches you to move and groove and to move as a unit, and so it starts right from day one. And then obviously move into phase 2, and again, eases back a little bit, and then phase 3, phase 4, and then by phase 5, things calm down by that point. But again, you're going to learn all the basic soldiering skills from shooting a weapon and just moving as one. You're going to get a lot of exercise in. Generally, later in your basic training into your AIT time, you're going to be probably doing twice a day exercising, morning and evening. And you're pretty much going to look forward to hitting that sack in the evening, and you'll get in a routine. If you're going in and you're a little overweight or out of shape, that's going to be taken care of in a couple weeks. You're going to shed a lot of weight, and you're going to gain a lot of muscle. But and folks will get hurt in basic training. That's part of the deal too. If you're not careful, I mean, you can get injured during the training if you're not paying attention, and that you do not want to do. You don't want to be recycled back into another company and miss graduating with your class. But again, so just to go over, you're going to do your basic training, hit your AIT schooling, and after that, you're going to have your graduation. You're going to meet your family. It's going to go by pretty quick. Hop on the plane and go back home to your, whether you're going full-time Army or doing the reserves, you're going to hit your duty station or, your reserve unit or guard unit, and then get acquainted there, and then start your monthly drills. And again, they say Army Reserves and Guard is a part-time obligation, but really there's more to it than that. It's become really quite involved now. Yes, you're doing your once a month, obligations and drill, and you have your yearly 2-week training. But now, I mean, there is a lot of schoolwork and coursework that needs to be completed now as a reservist and a Guard member. So you're not just, it sounds simple when you go into the critter station with this, just a once a month and a 2-week deal and once a year, but really it's a lot more involved in that. They're wanting you to, they have money to spend at the high levels, and they want these soldiers to be increasing their knowledge while they're at these companies, whether it's going to school, whether it's, warrior leadership, or it's, advanced schooling for the higher ranking NCOs. But it's a lot more involved in that, and you'll find yourself doing a lot of coursework online when you're away from the company or away from drill. So yeah, the one weekend a month is only one weekend a month, but you're spending a lot of time away from there on your own time getting things accomplished. And so don't be shocked when you hit your basic training company and you're wondering, or your company along with whatever it may be, wherever state you're in, and you realize there's a lot more involved than just 1 month of drill with the company. There's a lot more to it. But so again, and then obviously if your company's in that cycle where they're going to be deploying shortly, that's when the training's going to start shifting and gearing towards building up for deployment. So that means the company's going to be getting ready for basically gearing up towards that deployment, whatever that mission may be, and you'll know what it is beforehand. They'll kind of give you, and again, don't be surprised if your mission changes when it comes to deployment as well. But once your unit is in the chute, so to speak, to be deployed, they'll start gearing and changing your training towards deployment. And again, whatever your mission is, that's where your training is going to be directed towards. So then again, that's where you're going to spend a lot more time at the unit. There's pre-mobilization. So really before deployment, they say, I was away a year or so for deployment, but before building up to that, you're going to spend probably a good year as well overall, or maybe a little less than that, with the company, going to different places and training, building up to your deployment. So there's a lot more to it than just once you're deployed a year. Before that, you're going to spend a lot of time away from home and family, so get ready for that as well. But again, once you're deployed, you're very busy from sun up to sundown, and it goes by pretty quick. And again, depending on where you go for your pre-mobilization, that's about anywhere, from maybe, 40, 45 days. And again, that's going to be all directed towards your mission. So you may find yourself in Texas, or that's a popular pre-mobilization site for a lot of units. But so you'll have your pre-mob, you'll deploy, and then once you're deployed, and again, for your first time deploying, obviously there's a lot of anxiety, but like I said, once you get there, it's usually a pretty smooth process, depending with your company, and it goes by pretty quick. Before you know it, you're heading home. Of course, you do have your R&R, so once you get there, several months in, depending on the lineup of the company, you'll be taking your leave and going back home, and so for about close to a month. Of course, you got to leave again, which is tough, but then you head back and finish it out, and then head back home. So that really is the whole nuts and bolts of the situation. And then obviously the after part of the deployment and doing the military service, there's great benefits that come along with serving with military as far as education goes, and employers definitely are looking for disciplined individuals that have, such as veterans and people that are in the military, because they know they can count on them. They're disciplined, they're on time, they work hard. So there's a lot of benefits to that. I did the same thing. I mean, I'm taking advantage of the education for sure. So don't let the many benefits, go unused. And you'll have to dig in and find the benefits yourself a lot of times, because you may not be aware of them. So just research and then take advantage of all the benefits you can of being in the military. But that's just a little snippet of what it's like from basic training, to your unit, to deployment and back. So that's just wanted to share that with you guys. And thanks for joining me. And then maybe next time we'll dive into another subject. Thanks.